It was? Yes. Like the nose ring.
We have the clicker so we can run it as well.
Kind of feel like it was a little. Wait, why is it backwards? Over. Wait, I'm like, yeah, oh God, football. Yeah. No, I just want to go to my birthday. Huh? When, I'm sorry. Hi. How are you, Arnold? I just checked my phone. I'm doing that. What's in that? I might sell right here, and I might. I can't decide where I want to be. I just want to be up. I feel like the shelves here too long. I want the shelves.
There's still plenty of seats by the windows. Look around. Open at 8 to get some water. Now's the time. We're going to get started in 10 minutes. Eddie Michelle, can you hear me in the back? Eddie Michelle, can you hear me? Okay. All right, there's still plenty of seats to look around. How we doing? Hey, can we start getting in on scene, please? All right, good evening, everybody. Are we all excited to be here? All right, good to hear. Okay, I have some administrative items I have to take care of, and then I'm going to introduce Mark Elvin, our president of the HOA. First off, there's a lot of people here tonight. So the fire exits, yes, it's more than usual. Actually, this is what we usually have at a board meeting. Okay. So the fire exits to your right, to the rear, and one to the left. Okay. Cell phones, put them on vibrate or turn them off, please. All right. This meeting is being streamed live over YouTube. Okay, I was just told, please turn off your Wi-Fi because it will help with our streaming of YouTube. I know you don't know how to do that. Call your grandkids, they'll tell you in a second. So at the conclusion of this meeting, there will be a special meeting of the board. Okay? We are holding all questions and comments until the end of the presentations and closing remarks. Oh, okay, I've just advised, put your phones on airplane mode and it shuts off your Wi-Fi. Thank you, Max. All right, you don't have to put it on airplane mode. Yes, the stewardess in there. Okay. All right, listen. We ask everyone to be courteous and respectful of each other and refrain from talking out or talking over each other. There's a lot of people in this room. If everybody starts whispering, you're going to miss a lot. And it's not fair to the person next to you. Okay? Violators will be asked to sit, and if your behavior continues, you will be asked to leave the social hall. Right? We will be taking one question or comment per household. not husband and wife, one or the other. You two can fight over it later. And also receiving questions and comments from those viewing on YouTube. Maximum time for each question or comment will be 1 minute. That's plenty of time to ask a question. All right, the question and answer portion will be 1 hour in length. And we ask everybody please to adhere to these guidelines. So I know you've been waiting for this a long time, so without further ado, I'd like to introduce your president, your HOA, Art Gelman.
Imagine if we had food. What would we do? Anyway, I can personally, and this isn't in my notes, but personally, I'd like to thank everybody for coming out. This is more people. I've been here almost 11 years. It's more people than I've seen in the social hall. So thank you all for coming. Give yourself a round of applause. For tonight's meeting, the meeting's going to be comprised of 4 parts. There's going to be 2 presentations, one on the project scope, one on the financial. I will have some closing remarks, and there'll be a Q&A session, as Alan said. It'll be an hour in length. If at the end of all of this, you still have unanswered questions or comments, just so everybody's aware, we will be starting our focus groups again. We've already got dates scheduled, thanks to our renovation committee. And you can sign up at the front office starting tomorrow morning for a date and time that meets with your schedule to answer your unanswered questions or comments, or if you have some concerns. I'd like to take this opportunity to personally thank my fellow co-chair and board member, Ed Jaffe. Ed and I have had a love fest for 2 years. Don't worry, Marlene and Phyllis, nothing to worry about. Also, I'd like to thank the renovation committee members, all of the renovation committee members, for their perseverance, dedication, effort, and the enormous amount of time that they put into this project to get us here today, which, as of last week, was 2 years. Members of the committee, for all that don't know, and if you're here, could you please stand, please? Jeff Allen, Bev Berkowitz, Stan Cohen, Monty Kalman, Alan Campbell, Alice Colbert, Bill Lazarus, Marshall Levine, Edith Polizak, and Anita Shiner. Also, I'd like to thank all of you for your input, suggestions, and patience during this process. I know it's been somewhat longer than we all anticipated, but I think, given tonight's turnout, you're going to be pleasantly surprised. Now to get started with this evening's meeting. So I'm not derelict in my duty, I also want to introduce Lou Kaplan. Lou is our esteemed outside counsel with Sachs and Kaplan. And he's here just to keep everybody straight on where we are, and so we don't run astray somewhere. Lou, thank you. He's very shy. Now to get started, I'd like to introduce Bob Martin, president of Decorators Unlimited, and Jack Bonetto, he's the senior interior designer, and 2 other of their team who aren't here, David Manello and Dave Basket, who have been instrumental working with us to get us to where we are today. Bob and Jack will be doing the presentation on the project scope. That's going to be followed by Jim Charlotte, who will do the financial aspects. And then I've got some closing remarks, and then after that, we'll go into the Q&A session. So without further ado, Bob, Jack.
Thank you, Art. Good evening. Happy holidays, everyone. I'm very excited to be here. As Art had said, this has been a long, arduous journey. We're in the business, so this is what we're accustomed to. And again, I don't want to steal time and talk about all the people that were involved, but again, to the committee and to the board, heartfelt thank you, because these people give of themselves, of their time for your community. At least I'm paid, they're not. So I hope you take that in the vein and the spirit that it's given, and these people are really wonderful people. And it has been a pleasure, even though it's been a protracted time period, it's been a pleasure to work with you all, and I thank you for that. I want to thank Jack, who has been very instrumental in pulling together our presentation tonight with the committee. Our construction team is not here tonight. We didn't feel it was necessary for them to be here, but they were on the construction and estimating side. Dave and Dave, we call them Dave Squared, and they were here throughout the process to help refine this overall project and the budgets. So without further ado, again, thank you all. Thank you also to one person that wasn't mentioned, Megan. She has been, she's the one that does all the schedules, reschedules, cancellations. It's been, crazy when you have a committee and you have multiple people. It's sometimes like herding cats, and she did a great job of doing that. So again, thank you. And Jack, thank you very much for everything. Thank you. Okay. Can everyone hear me, or am I not? Okay, I apologize. Okay, so we are going to start with the initial overview of the club and things that we did through the help of also Stuart Brenner Architects, who was engaged by the board and the committee to do the renovation plans. And I will talk in general about the overall objectives that were given to us by the committee and the board, and how we proceeded to refine that into the plans. So if I may, can we pull up the plan first? Okay, so I know this is difficult to see. I don't know if many of you have seen this in the past. Obviously, this is a representation of the redesign of your clubhouse. But overall objectives were, first of all, to create a new transitional design, cleaner, lighter, a little more contemporary aesthetic. Let me use that word because I think contemporary gets overused and misused. We're just lightening and cleaning things up. We're not looking for Miami Beach or South Beach. This is not what our objectives are. And I think many of you have already seen our renderings and our vision for all the rooms within the clubhouse. So I think the word transitional contemporary is kind of a good hybrid to best describe where we're going. First of all, before we leave, as far as architectural details, they are throughout the clubhouse. Every space is being touched. Whether it's significant or not, every space is going to be treated with new lighting, LED lighting for efficiency, cleaner details, new paint, new carpet, flooring in most of the areas throughout the clubhouse. And again, those details are going to lead us down that path, and Jack will speak more specifically about it. There are also some architectural changes. So let me use my laser pointer. Can everybody see that red dot? Okay, perfect. So we start with the new front entry. And again, this is just an overview. There will be a new front entry doors. And there's also in the front an additional space. As you see right here where that dot is, that's the new billiard pool room. That is an additional space that exists underneath the covered loggia out front, but we're expanding underneath that roof to create a new space, enabling us to pick up a fourth card room, which I know was a priority for many of the members here, and it was a very cost-effective way of trying to accomplish that task. So we got a hybridization of the space where we get a separation there with glass doors. We punch through those windows, and then we enclose that space and create that new space. As we proceed down into the great room, we've changed the windowsills and brought the windowsills down. And obviously you'll see in our rendering a new design, but again, in the architecture of the space, the windows are very high. Now the windows are going very low to the floor, about 18 inches off the floor, and the fence is going to be removed. And now you have a better view of the pool area and the back of the space of the club. Going to be very effective. The other areas that we've done are the cafe, which everyone seems to enjoy and use. We've expanded the kitchen. We've expanded the seating area and created a new covered air-conditioned space to reconfigure that space. And then the outside space, which currently exists, is now also screen enclosed, which again eliminates the use of the fence and allows that space to be more of an adjunct to the indoor cafe space I think it's going to be very innovative and very beautiful, and you'll see that again as we proceed. Obviously, the room that we're sitting in now, which is your social hall, basically it's a cosmetic change. We're not changing the footprint of the hall, but we are expanding down here a new storage facility, which was, I guess, desperately needed for storage of banquet tables, new chairs, et cetera, et cetera. So this has a total new look and a new feel. Again, as we continue on now, we talked about the card and poker space. As we come through here, the new card rooms redesigned, refitted, and then going to the aerobics facility and the gym, all going to be refitted and redone with a whole new look. So that's an important part of the redesign. As well as the social hall, I want to go back to a minute ago, which we're sitting in now. There is going to be some significant changes. For those that are hearing impaired, we're adding a loop system, which will help those that are hearing impaired. I think that's an important feature that people want. And so that's going to be incorporated into the new design with the upgraded sound system. And the other thing that I want to just touch on basically are the entries. There are going to be key fob accesses at some of the key entry points, which will allow people to not have to worry about a key. They'll fob it, and you can have entry. And obviously that will only be for the residents' use. And I think that's an important feature that will make this clubhouse more up to date. All the clubhouses that we're doing presently, new and or retrofitted, that seems to be a standard feature. Last but not least, the bathrooms are all going in the main club, both on this side clubhouse and on the other side will be refitted completely. Again, with the newer features like touchless plumbing, faucets, toilets that flush automatic toilet seat covers, new tile work, so they will look like beautiful brand new bathrooms. So I think we're excited about that, and as we get into greater detail, Jack will expand upon that and show you some of the finishes because we have them up on the screen. So if I may, we'll go to the next picture, and we'll start with our before and afters. So as you can see, for everyone's edification, even though we're here in the clubhouse tonight, we thought it would be and actually, I think Art came up with the before and after, or someone on the board, that we can show you the before and afters. If we could just go to the after real quick, the next one, you'll see some of the contrast. So we are adding in the before, and I mean adding to the after, new ceiling design, new front entry doors, new benches, new planters, and I think this will make the feeling and the entry to the club far more luxurious and far more inviting. And again, bring it up to snuff with what some of your neighbors are doing in their communities. From a standpoint of details, again, the doors have a beautiful wood grain texture to them, along with the transom windows. And then as you can see up in the ceiling, there's an existing copper here, but we're adding these beautiful cloud ceilings to kind of give it a cleaner, more interesting look from an architectural standpoint. So I think, Jack, is there anything you want to add?
No, I basically just wanted to say that this being a key point upon entering and experiencing the clubhouse, we wanted to start to show some of the interior materials, the addition of the wood, the warm wood ceiling, and the mahogany doors, so that as you approach the interior space, you're getting a sense of what's about ready to come.
Okay, if we could, we'll go to the next before and after. So we are now into the entry, which you're all familiar with. Most of you come and go this way every day. The basic goal here, again, and Jack will expand upon this, is we are changing the flooring. We're getting rid of the small ceramic tile, and we're going to a large format porcelain, which is somewhere here in the clubhouse tonight.
Yeah, we will have the materials on display in the great room after the presentation.
24 by 48.
Actually, 32 by 72.
I'm sorry, 32 by 70. Even better. Go big or go home. So the advantage of that in our industry in the last few years, we have seen a market improvement with the primarily Italian tiles that are coming from factories in Italy that are super computerized. The formatting of the tile is beautiful. The size means less grout, less maintenance. The finishes are rectified. As you can see in your current clubhouse entry, you can see very distinct grout lines, which obviously are like nooks and crannies that hold dirt and make it harder to maintain. The new rectified porcelains have very sharp 90-degree edges, and it allows us to install them on a very tight finish, much like a marble floor. So the grout is lessened, number one. But number two, it's lessened by virtue of the size of the tile. We're now dealing with a tile that replaces 4 to 6 tiles with one. So it's really a tremendous improvement. And the look, of course, is magnificent. If you go to the after picture for a moment, you'll see. Okay, perfect. Good job. Thank you very much. Thank you. So from a standpoint of the impression, the other thing that you'll see, and again, Jack will expand upon this in a moment, is we've gotten rid of all the heaviness, the arches, the metalwork, all the underpunch stuff. So again, I'm gonna turn this over to Jack because I'm on a high right now. So Jack,
Pressure. All right, so what we see here again is a simplification of design. We've stripped away some of the heavy traditional detailing. And what we did, again, as Bob mentioned before, we didn't want to create a very contemporary Miami feel. So we do have decorative moldings, but they're just cleaner in detail, more simplified. The large format porcelain stone tile on the lower level has great texture. In addition to the size being great, it has a great texture, so it feels much like stone. And we bordered in or inset into that a porcelain wood tile. So we have a warm stone and a warm wood in combination. We've opened up that wall between the great room and the foyer to have more of this grand appearance. We are doing a little bit of architectural detail. Instead of just having a plain opening, we've kind of set back, create some dimension. And then the big feature of this room is the beautiful cascading light fixture, which really captures
One of the things that I wanted to note too, and I skipped over it in my introduction of some of the features of the clubhouse, is the board and the committee was very, very attuned to the comments from the membership about sound and sound attenuation. They actually hired one of the most renowned sound engineers in South Florida as a separate consultant to create a review of every space within the clubhouse. And that gentleman created a report, and we literally took that report to companies to bid sound attenuation panels. The panels are similar to this, but they are the next level. These were done after the fact, and they are, you know, in all due respect, they're helpful, but they didn't really accomplish the goals because sound attenuation has to happen on more surfaces than just walls. And these are a new product, or a much more sophisticated product called stretch wall, where you don't even see the panel. They're going to be incorporated into many of the ceilings because sound reverberates up and down and side to side. So we're doing multiple locations in many of the card rooms here, hallways, to attenuate the sound. And again, I take my hat off to the board and the committee because I do many clubhouses where this is overlooked, and it becomes a struggle at the end to try to correct the problem after the fact, as you did here. It was effective, but yet it's not the right way to do it. With forethought, it can be done more effectively, more streamlined, and kind of be invisible. You don't really want to see these things. You want them to be effective but not visible. And so as a note, as we go through each space, just understand, if I overlook it, I apologize, but the card rooms, the social hall, many of the areas have been done with this recommendation, and we followed it to the letter. We did not deviate. We took his recommendations, and we did the job accordingly. So just a note.
Just one more feature to note. In this particular case, going back to the foyer, exterior foyer, as you come up to the building, we discussed the wood ceiling. As you enter into the interior foyer, we continue that detail. So you have a blending of the inside out concept, so that it's all continuity of design and continuity of experience.
Great. So we'll move on to the great room itself, which you see. So again, trip down memory lane. Here we are, back to the presents. So we're going to get rid of the funeral home drapes for sure. Any objections to that? Okay. The other thing, again, of important note is the sill height behind the piano is very high. So when you're in that room and sitting in that room, unfortunately, you cannot enjoy the view out to your beautiful patio, lanai, and pool area. The first thing we did and recommended was to drop those sills, which we have, to a very low height. So now when you walk in, you will see out through the windows, and more importantly, again, we're removing and eliminating the fence by redirecting traffic and doing safety push bars on doors to make sure that the structure is secure. But that changes the whole dynamic of the space, folks. That makes it feel like you're in this beautiful resort space and you can see out to the pool, which is an important asset to your clubhouse. So again, if all of the arches, all of this heaviness is going away, and then again, in the after, you'll see much more closely where we're going. Jack?
Oh, sorry. You want me to go?
More track. Go to the there we go.
All right. So again, with the aesthetic, we've simplified the design. We've removed a lot of the traditional detailing. The ceiling that you remember with the grid above still stays, but we've taken away a lot of the cherubby details and all of the fussiness. Inset into those panels that Bob had mentioned is the acoustical material, so it'll really be hidden, but be very productive function-wise. In addition, we've created new architecture, square arch details. We've added inset wood panels on the midpoint up level, and then down below, we framed out those inset panels with wood, a backdrop of a really nice natural wall covering, that backlit that for a little bit of a dramatic effect. We've added a new chandelier, new wall sconces, and then we've carried the stone material from the foyer into the great room for continuity again, and then created 2 lounge seating areas, each with 2 sofas in the middle point of the room. And then as you go back towards the pool area, you see blue chairs. Those are conversation areas of 4 chairs each, and they swivel, so you can relate back to everyone sitting in the room, or you can all turn and face the pool, whatever you desire. But it was really meant to create these like intimate seating areas within the large space.
So we'll move on to the next area, which is going to be our materials. What about that?
So we're looking at some of the great room materials here. The color palette is a combination of these great natural blues, copper tones, bronze tones, warm woods. So again, we're looking at longevity of design. That we wanted to create a design that would be valid for a long period of time. So really solid, timeless design, neutral tones with little punches of natural color.
Cafe. So we made sure that we made this one as ugly as possible. I hope you enjoyed the upside down chairs. So, you know, we know that the cafe is an important part of the clubhouse. And again, the desire was to improve it in many respects. And first and foremost was to get with the operator or potential operator that will run the new cafe. And again, the kitchen design alone is quite extensive. And I don't want to spend time tonight talking about that in particular. I will just give you a brief overview that basically you are getting a double-sized kitchen with the right equipment, stainless steel, all the proper things that will allow the menu to be expanded and be more desirable. So that's everything else beyond that. The menu planning is above my pay grade. Deal with the board on that. But to say the least, we are very excited about this space. And again, in an overview, and I'll let Jack again talk about all the particulars, the architecture of the space. After going through many iterations, we found that the easiest way to redesign the cafe and the kitchen was to expand the space and punch through those 3 existing windows. There's a covered loggia outside, if you recall, and make that outside covered loggia now air-conditioned space. So the windows get removed. That becomes 3 openings that lead to more seating behind that wall to the outside, and then the new space around that octagon, and then down towards the left will be additional seating also enclosed in one of the bays of the outdoor loggia. And then beyond that, as I mentioned before, we're going to have a screen, mechanical screens to enclose the rest of the space to make it al fresco dining. So on nice evenings like tomorrow night, which will be cool and beautiful, and other times during the winter season, you can go out there and have, or in the afternoon, a lovely experience both indoor and outdoor at the cafe. So from a standpoint, again, of just some highlights of the cafe, we are going to be removing the fence so the view is not blocked. We're expanding the space. We are maintaining at a minimum the seating that's presently there, so you're not going to lose any seating. And then there will be additional patio seating on the loggia where the screen enclosures are going to be. And then fans and acoustical panels throughout again to go to the after. Next. So again, you can see the architecture of the three openings. Now they are passageways that lead you out through the seating areas. There's a combination of table seating and booth seating, and with that, I'll lead to Jack.
So as Bobby mentioned, there is a combination of seating. We wanted to make the experience a little more restaurant style versus just having regular seating. We've brought in as a flooring material just the wood in this area to give it a little different character from the rest of the building. We have the acoustical material in the ceilings up above here. Now it's a little bit more of a feature because we have it as a color. And then we've added back in for warmth. We've created that exterior wall that has the windows currently now becomes a feature wall, framed in with wood detail and a natural wall covering. In addition, the walk-up counter over here has a decorative accent tile, which you'll see in one of the next boards. That's pretty much it for the space. The one thing I will say is, because we had to expand into the other area, it does create more of an interesting layout, in that there are separation between seating areas. It's not all out in the open. You can kind of have an intimate grouping with friends in one area and somebody can be somewhere else, and you have some privacy between you.
I think we have another.
Yeah, we do. Yeah.
So we're going to segue into another rendering of the other space. But before, that's the outside. There's the iron electrified fence. So we're going to get rid of that look, and we're going to go to the after. A little more inviting, I would say.
And again, with the last rendering that we saw, we have continuity of design. We're carrying out that wood floor material into the space as well, which is porcelain. And we have booth seating and table seating as well. And then again, the continuity of materials, a framed out feature wall in wood with the inside wall covering material.
Very good. We'll segue to the next. Sure. Okay, let's pull up. Getting out the materials.
These are showing some of the materials that are in the cafe area. And again, this was the decorative tableau, the pickup counter that I was talking about before. It's actually not a great image here, but when you see it in person in the great room, it is a combination of navy and copper and wood tones and beiges. So it does grab all the colors that we're using throughout the space. The tabletops are this really interesting acrylic material. It's a speckled, almost translucent looking material. So it gives some interesting character to the space in a otherwise ubiquitous tabletop. And then again, we have booth seating that looks more like sofa seating, so it has more of a casual appearance. And then this is a typical cafe chair and table combination. A two-tone fabric, which we start to see here is the back fabric and then the seat fabric. We have the wall covering, the natural wall covering in wood, and then we get into some of the bank hat fabrics. But again, you'll be able to see that in person in the lobby and see what the actual colors. Oh yes. So being this is a commercial space, we all of the fabrics have to meet certain requirements. One of them is fire code, which they all do. The second is durability. And durability in our industry is defined as 30,000 double rubs, which is the number of times someone can sit down and stand up and wear on a chair before it starts to show abrasion or peeling or wear. So all of the fabrics that I've selected for this project are above that 30,000 point. They start at the 50,000 and they go up to the 120,000. So we had a keen eye on durability and longevity of materials as we went through and selected everything for the project.
Here we are, right in the social hall. This space is, I think, going to be also one of the most significant in as far as transformation is concerned. We are really excited about this. One of the things that I think we spent the most time on was the seating, the chairs. I'm sure many of you had the opportunity to do the Tushy test on many of the chairs for both the cafe, the card rooms, and of course this room. The chair that was ultimately decided upon is a chair that is being used in other clubs, like across the street, which we're doing for your neighbors. Ultimately, will get installed in the next few months, God willing, if the roof doesn't blow up. Sorry about that, Linda Kalish. She happens to be wonderful if you know her. She's a great lady. Anyway, from a standpoint of the design, again, we are lightening and cleaning up the spaces here, new carpeting, cleaning up the wall treatments. We're getting rid of the multiple hanging fixtures that are in here presently. You will see a very dramatic, large central fixture in the coffer that's directly above the center of the room. The corbels get removed, the sound panels get redone, again, new carpeting. And of course, we talked about the continuous loop for hearing impaired and a new sound system. So I think this room we know has multi-functions, and the stage will also be addressed as well. So I think this room will be transformed into something really beautiful. That being said, again, I wanted to talk to you about just the additional storage closet, which I know doesn't bring you. Oh, yes, okay, so go to the after, I'm sorry. So the after, the focus is now the large central fixture, which pretty much consumes the entirety of the coffer, a good percentage of it. So it's going to be quite dramatic. I mean, when you walk into this room, I think, again, the fixtures become the jewelry to the room. And again, the chairs that you see are the selected chair from Berlin, and then, of course, new stage drapery, refinished walls, dramatic sconces, as you can see. The sconces are considerably larger in proportion to what's presently here when these walls get cleaned up, and we're trying to accentuate the volume and kind of unclutter the room. What you'll see here too, which is kind of important, and I've been talking about this ad nauseum, are these panels. They are now integrated into these coffers, and those are some of the acoustical panels, which will help attenuate the sound within the room, along with the carpeting, of course, and the upholstery. They all add up. But again, the expert that we brought in gave us the direction as to how to do this properly, and we believe that it's going to be more effective than what we have currently. Jeff?
So one of the issues, I mean, this being a big room with not a lot going on potentially, wanted to create a space that was unique and interesting and special. I mean, this is a place where all your functions happen. And so that was the genesis for creating this large but random light fixture that will be above you. Architecture is a very important component for me in any design, and so I wanted to start redefining the wall spaces. So in the corners, I've added some wallpaper here to give more emphasis to the stage area. As Bob mentioned, we have the acoustical panels in the ceiling integrated into this ripple effect design that will be going on. Another nice feature about the acoustical panels that's different than what was before is that we can actually have the acoustical panel material printed to match the wallpaper that's behind it. So essentially, the panels, and we'll have some panels in these areas here, but they'll be printed to match the paper and become nondescript. Yep, and then as Bob mentioned before, the other things are we have these great like oversized wall sconces. What these fixtures are made up of is a metal frame. You start to see a little bit, will be a better picture in the next slide, but a metal frame up here, and then what that actually is a tumbled glass string of beads. So it's like a frosted sea glass, but in a white tone, so it's very soft, and it diffuses light very effectively, and is a very dramatic without being fussy or without being super modern in appearance. And everything is LED. So looking at some of the materials here, we have the Bertolini chairs that Bob had mentioned. This is a close-up of a small version of the wall sconce in the middle, and that's showing the metal frame with the glass beads. We have an architectural drapery. Let's see. There's an architectural drapery panel here, so we're just pulling in some texture into the drapery, and then we have a very nice crackle finish wallpaper, which would be the areas that I was talking about in the corners here and behind you. And then just some examples of art.
Again, the chairs, the fabric on the chairs, how many bucks a day?
That is $150,000. So for reference, again, I said 30,000 was contract rated. We're at 150, and it has a Teflon coating, which means you could essentially pour wine over the top of it that's just going to beat up and fall off without looking like a plastic film.
Yeah. Cartridges. So we have the 3 card rooms, and again, we'll talk about the additional poker room, card room as well. But the 3 card rooms presently all have slight nuances to them, but essentially they are going to be treated pretty much the same. The finishes, the materials, the chairs. So should you wish to, mix and match, or expand or add something to a room, or have a function, a committee or something, you can bring in chairs and not look like it's a mishmash. Again, some of the heaviness and layering here will be cleaned up. All of the arches and all of the lick and stick with moldings and the lattice work on the ceiling will be removed. The window treatments will be cleaned up. And again, we'll have new wall details. Again, acoustical panels, which you do not have. 2 of the rooms have a hard coat ceiling. 1 of them is acoustical, if I recall correctly. And they will be, again, treated each one individually based on the sound engineer's recommendations with stretch wall. New LED lighting, decorative fixtures, new carpet, paint, and furnishings, and window treatment. So without further ado, we'll go to the after. Thank you, we love that. So Jack, I'll segue to you.
So as with the other spaces, the goal here was to lighten and brighten, to warm it up a little bit, to give it a little bit of character. So again, all the fussy details have been removed, as Bob had mentioned. Every card room does have a feature wall, and that has been accomplished, you can see on this back wall here, with basically a lattice style wood detail inset with a wallpaper or wall covering. We have the 3 copper ceiling detail that is in card room 1 and 3, and that will have sound attenuation. Card room 2 is the one that has the drop ceiling panels. And then new lighting, new LED lighting, and then 2 new LED fixtures, new card tables and chairs, and new carpet. So this is showing, unfortunately this is a little washed out, but this is showing some of the colors that are going into the space. Again, a close-up of the light fixture, a double ring LED. The style of the card room chairs. Nice feature about these chairs is that they have a wood slat on the back that you can grab to pull or push in the chair, so you're not grabbing fabric. In addition to that, every room will have a console table so that you can, for layout of materials or for, and then we're just getting into some of the chair seat fabric here, which is kind of a pearlized cream finish, and the chair back fabric here, which is a very light blue, which will coincide or tie into the carpet.
And again, as a note, the chair for the card room was displayed, and there were multiple options. And again, it passed the Tushy test. The one that you picked is in our rendering, so I just want to make sure that you know that you all had an opportunity to sit on. All right, so we'll move on to the poker room / card room / billiard pool room. So again, if you recall in the beginning of my presentation, when my opening remarks, this space will be expanded forward into the covered loggia off the front entry, and we will combine that with the billiard tables. One table will be moved forward and become in its own special space with glass doors adjoining this room, and then this room will be redone and have poker tables. So again, it becomes your 4th card room, which I think will be an effective use of that space. From a standpoint of some of the details, obviously, number 1, as I said, the primary goal was to get another card room, and we expanded it very effectively, cost effectively, because you're already under a roof. The net gain was a minimum of 4 poker tables with the pool table behind the doors. And then, of course, new finishings, new wall details, new LED lighting and fixtures, new carpeting, wall treatments, paint, and furnishings. So we'll go to after that. Oh, one of the other things was there was a requirement for some library space. So we incorporated into that shelving for those that still use conventional books, which is fine. And that was a requirement that we had to incorporate that somewhere, so it was incorporated here. And then if we could go to the next rendering real quick, so we can see that's the outside space. So those 2 windows get opened up and become doorways, and then into those columns we expand the structure and create next. So now there is a billiard pool room. What you don't see subtly is these are actually these former windows are now glass doors that are on pivot hinges. You can subtly see the door frame there, but they can close off because, as you know, if there are people in here playing pool, the crack of the ball hitting when you break and other things and people conversations, this gives you some privacy between the two spaces, albeit that's optional. Again, Jack will talk about the incorporation of a drink rail, some bar stools, some cool lighting, which again is complementary to the other card rooms, and of course the new carpeting and the new wall details.
Right. So for these two spaces, the poker room and the billiard room, I wanted to maintain some of the architectural details that we had in the card room, but also wanted to give it a little different character. So the carpeting, some of the finishes in the space are a little darker. The carpet's a little darker. The wall covering's a little darker. We've introduced the navy blue into the scheme, again, to darken the space a little bit, to separate it from the card room area. The chairs will be upholstered slightly differently. A couple other things to note is that this is a tournament-sized pool table, and that the poker tables are seating for 8, which is, I think you have seating for 6 now. You have 8? Oh, okay. My apologies.
Anything else? Let's move on to the next. Oh, you've got colors. I'm sorry.
Again, so going back to some of the finishes, this is a rendering of the poker table design, and the rendering of, or a sample of the pool table finish. The poker table has a navy finish felt, and the pool table has the pool table has a navy finish felt. The poker table has a beige finish felt. And again, we're just getting into some of the darker wall tones, darker wall coverings, darker seat finishes, and architectural drapery panels.
Onto the fitness and aerobics area. Obviously, the goal here was to, again, continue with the theme of the redesign and redecoration of the clubhouse. There will be, again, a complete renovation of the interior space to include paint, flooring materials, ceiling details, wall and mirror details, making sure that once the floors are stripped out, concealing electric in the floor for any of the equipment that requires electric so people aren't tripping over the cords as they do presently. And then, of course, adding new contemporary fans and light fixtures. So again, the equipment is, I think, staying in place because most of it is relatively brand new. But when you see this and you go to the after, totally different feel. Beautiful flooring material and wall details and ceiling details. Jack?
So in this case, since it is mostly cosmetic, we wanted to bring the aesthetic that we've introduced for the main clubhouse into the two workout areas. So what we have from bottom up, new carpeting, new rubber matting in the free weight area, new wall colors. We've added some architectural details around the windows to get the illusion of a square top window for a little more modern, or a little more contemporary feature, but again, warm and transitional. To carry that theme, we've framed in the mirror area, so we have this transom architectural detail of a large window or a large mirror below and a smaller mirror above. New drop lighting and new ceiling fans, and we've cleaned up the architectural details of the soffits. We've taken away the arches and just squared them off for a cleaner look.
Good. Okay, let's go on to the aerobics, which is adjoining. Here we are presently in the aerobics room. Again, pretty much the same mentality. The primary goal was to give it a fresh new look. Again, complete renovation, including flooring, paintwork, ceiling detail, wall and mirror detail, new fans, new light, LED lighting, and of course ballet bars for stretching to make that effective. We have found in communities that are 55 or older as such here that the wood floors are more desirable for low impact than some of the synthetic floors. And that's just been a general study that we found over the past several jobs that we've done. So again, without further ado, we'll go to the after. Much cleaner, much nicer, much brighter. Wall details and mirrors, you can see, again, Jack will point out to you again, the details, there's the ballet bars, high and low, and the mirror detail, storage for equipment, and then of course the ceiling details, fan work, and continuous LED light fixtures.
The one thing, the nice feature that this design has is in addition to the real wood floors, is that now we have mirrors on 2 walls and a double bar system that is more desirable than the single bar system. And as Bob mentioned, the other updates that are in the other fitness area, the changing wall tone, the addition of new modern ceiling fans, drop lighting, and clean soffit details.
Covered patio. This is directly behind the card rooms, the 3 card rooms. There again was feedback to the committee and the board about expanding outdoor covered use and space. The space that presently exists near the aerobics and gym is used quite often by people for cards, for mahjong, whatever. There was just a greater demand. And so in an effort to create more space but not destroy the aesthetic of the club, we came up with an awning system that kind of ties into the existing cabana awnings, which will all be redone, by the way, with the new material and color. So when you're out on the pool deck and patio area, this will look like, I think it was, again, meant to be, and it ties into the existing awnings. In fact, when you see in the after, let's go to the after. So you can see now that the after gives you additional coverage. The present awning structure will be moved over a little bit, and you'll create this new space, and we pick up several, I think it's 6 new 4-top tables in the present overall. So again, just to give people more space to enjoy the outdoor environment on nice days. Jack?
Not a whole lot to say about this one other than, we have the new awning feature and the new tables. Again, trying to bring a little bit of that wood tone from the inside to the outside. So we're introducing that in the tabletops of the card tables. And then the representation of blue in the umbrella is what we were leaning towards as far as the color for the cabanas. So that will tie into the pool tone and tend to colors. In addition, the exterior spaces here and in the screened-in area off the cafe have these wonderful, what's referred to in the industry as big ass fans. They're about 8. That is the brand. They're about 8 foot in diameter. They're huge, but they do move air very efficiently and nicely. So even on a hot day, you have nice breeze.
Correct. Very good. Materials.
Okay. So again, in the great room, there'll be a display of the material boards, but this is showing some of the common materials that are running throughout the space. This is the gray oversized porcelain tile that we were talking about earlier, the 32 by 72. Bordering that would be the porcelain wood look tone tile in the warm brown tones. Getting into some of the other features, we're seeing an example of the veneer material that would be used for some of the architectural details throughout. Again, the correlation between the 2 wood tones. In this particular example, this tile here, as we get into the next board, which will be restroom, but this particular tile is an oversized subway tile in a white finish that will be used in the restrooms, in addition to some of the other materials. This tile here is a white quartz material, which you'll see in the rendering that will be countertop material, and then paint color and the addition of some wall covering in the bathrooms for warmth. And then this board is showing some of the features of the restrooms. Again, the key point in all of this is that the experience of the restroom now would be basically hands-free. A wave to enter system going in and out of the restroom, wave to use motion-sensored faucets and soap dispensers, as well as hands-free valves in the toilets and the urinals. In addition to that, a new architectural feature will be this floating mirror concept here. It's showing horizontally, but in this concept rendering of the vanity, it's shown vertically, and basically the mirror is floated off the wall and backlit for a little bit of drama. Again, this is a design feature that we were using in the, if you remember back to the great room where we had the wall panels that were backlit, so we're kind of reintroducing that into an otherwise uninteresting space. And this rendering here shows how the materials would be used in the restroom. So on each side of the vanity, we have these oversized subway tiles. The vanity top being in the white quartz and a very thick slab. The wood veneer below to hide all of the plumbing fixtures. ADA, hide all of the, and it does meet the ADA component requirement for shielding of the plumbing fixtures. And then in the floor area here, we show the combination of the oversized wood, or oversized stone porcelain look tile in combination with the wood tiles of wood.
And that's it, folks. Thank you very much.
thank you very much. I can hear myself talk, so I think everyone in the back of the room can hear me. First of all, how about a hand for Bob? I don't know how to follow an act like that, but I'm going to try. As most of you know, I am Jim Charlotte. I'm treasurer. And what I'm going to be reporting tonight is what the plan is that was recommended by the Finance and Budget Committee. We have a very strong, we're fortunate to have a very strong Finance and Budget Committee. And I'd like to point out who they are and ask them to stand up. They're here. Alan Miller is our chair. Paul Ward, Stan Keller, Alan Labo, Randy Ross, and Arnie Ford. We're indeed fortunate to have this talented group of people doing all the things all year long to serve our community. So thank you very much. And as I said before, what I will be recommending is what they have recommended unanimously for financing this project. So the financial plan, we'll talk now about how we're going to finance this project that we just heard so much about. We're going to cover the project cost, the source of funds, and the assessment and the payment options. The total project cost is $4,477,000. It's made up of three components: furnishings, fixtures, and equipment for $1,517,000. The clubhouse construction, which you've heard Bob expand quite a bit on tonight, what's going to be done, that's going to change what we have today beyond the furnishing, fixtures, and equipment, is $2,746,000. And we've built in a contingency of 5%. Now, the clubhouse construction is made up of almost 80% of it's made up of following: demolition and building, electrical, plumbing, and HVAC, acoustical sound and AV, cafe, kitchen, and flooring. The one thing that hasn't really been mentioned, maybe it was, is that we are replacing some of the air conditioners, and that's part of what you see for the HVAC. The Finance and Budget Committee unanimously recommends the following: that we allocate $1,555,000 from the deferred maintenance reserve. We currently on our balance sheet have $1,903,000, and it's expected that $577,000 will be added by the end of the project, leaving a balance in excess of $900,000, which the committee feels is appropriate for where we'll be. In addition, we're going to allocate $300,000 of the estimated surplus. You know, each year when we report the year-end financials, either by myself or our external auditor, they talk about our sound financial condition that we're in. And we typically, in many years, had surpluses. And what we're now doing is using half of the estimated surplus that we plan to have. So what does this relate to? We have a total cost of $4,477,000. We have an offset from the reserve and the surplus, as I mentioned, the $1,555,000 and the $300,000. That represents 41% of the total, which leaves a total assessment of $2,622,000. That equates to $3,800 per home. Now, I want to next talk about how is that going to be paid. The $3,800 assessment is planned to have six payments of $600, 6 quarterly payments of $600 each, and a 7th quarterly payment of $200. The start date would be February 1st, 2019, with the additional payments due every 90 days. The critical part of this chart is that this has been spread over almost the complete timing of the project, almost 2 years. And to the homeowner, there was no interest, there was no finance charge, no handling charge, or no cost associated with it. It's taken the total cost of the project, spread it over the period of time of the $600 per quarter for the 6 quarters, and for the 7th payment of $200. That is the plan that has been unanimously recommended by the Finance and Budget Committee for the community to pay for the project of the many great things you've just heard from Bob and Jack. Thank you. Yes.
Okay, so here we are. So now you've seen everything. And like I said at the beginning, I know the process has been long, but it's been very arduous for us. It's taken us a long time to get where we are, but I want to thank Jack, Bob, everybody from Decorators Unlimited, and Jim and the Finance and Budget Committee for getting us to where we are today. So. Just from my perspective, I just have a few closing remarks, because both as the board president and as a co-chair of this renovation committee, I've been working on this project for a long time. And some observations I have, and I know that even after these in-depth presentations, you all may still have some questions and comments. I mentioned earlier that we are going to have the focus groups. You'll have an opportunity to do that. We are going to have a question and answer period when I finish these closing remarks. But if I can just pass on a few observations for you, and you can take these for what they're worth, but I think they're important for you to understand. We are currently 12 years old, and we are the last remaining similarly situated community not to have renovated their clubhouse. The fact of the matter is, Valencia Lakes, Valencia Isles, they're on their 2nd renovation. And this is what HOA communities do every 10 or 12 years. It's just the nature of the beast. Secondly, we know from our discussions with other communities, and we've spent time visiting almost every one in the area, and with realtors during this process, that there won't be any guarantees of the value of your homes increasing if the clubhouse is renovated. But one thing they do guarantee is that the value of your homes will decrease if it's not. That's for sure. I think for myself and my wife and a number of people here, we bought into an HOA community for the lifestyle and the amenities. The home in a lot of cases was secondary. You moved in, but it was really the amenities and the lifestyle. And what we're trying to do with this clubhouse renovation is continue that lifestyle and those amenities even after 12 years of living here. In today's competitive market, and most of you will know if you've looked around in the papers and things, and you looked at other communities, you'll know in the competitive environment that the realtors are in, and bringing prospective clients into even our community. When previewing properties for sale, particularly in an active adult community where the potential clients are somewhat older, they look for a few things. One of them is a completely updated clubhouse that has some type of a wow factor as you walk in. And I would argue that we're going to have a great wow factor as you walk in this door, as you can see from the renderings and pictures that Bob and Jack have gone through. The other things are a stylish cafe, modern appearance, and facilities that are conducive to socializing. And that's what I think we've tried to cover in all of these these renderings. For many of the residents here, the clubhouse is an extension of their own home. They spend quite a bit of time up in the clubhouse or surrounding the clubhouse with cards, what have you. And I think what we're trying to do is continue that enjoyment for everybody. One important thing that Jim touched on, and I just want to mention it. We are very fortunate to live in Valencia Point because according to our audience, we're one of the most financially viable communities, HOA communities in the area, which is why we're able to offset 41% of this project from reserves and surplus. The other thing I want to mention is, as most of you know, unfortunately, we had the hurricane that came through last year. And between that and the sugarcane mosaic virus sod replacement, in 2.5 years, we've absorbed over $850,000 in expenses for those two elements alone. There's been no special assessment to the community. Had we done that, and believe me, this was a subject of much discussion amongst the board members over many months in terms of what we should do. But had we done that, had we assessed at $850, was $1,232 per home. That's what your special assessment would have been. And it wouldn't have been paid out over time. It would have been a one-time payment. It's just the nature of the beast. One thing that's equally as important is we have reworked the project scope and the associated pricing multiple times. You know, people ask me personally, and Ed and many of the others, why it's taken so long. It's just the nature of how the project works. We had initially asked for everything. Well, we asked for everything without knowing what the price was going to be. And when we saw what the price was going to be for everything, we had two choices. We could have presented it to the community, which I think collectively from a renovation committee and a board standpoint, we know was not going to pass. And we took the other road, which was to go back and reshape and rework the numbers, rework the project scope to get where we are today. And I think what we've come up with is proven by the fact that we have two unanimous recommendations from diverse groups of individuals that will be sent to the community for your vote, for your approval, hopefully, at the meeting, the special meeting on December 19th, which is 2 weeks from today. Tomorrow, I'm sorry. Now, when can you start voting? You'll have an opportunity to start voting as early as tomorrow morning. There will be an email blast going out that will have some information, some introductory information, and a link to the proxy materials. At the same time tomorrow, proxy materials will be mailed out to everybody's home. You can also pick up your proxy forms here at the clubhouse. More importantly, you can vote in person at the meeting on December 19th. For me, from my perspective, you guys told me to keep a smile on my face, so that's what I'm doing. But, you know, I'm very excited about this project, not because I've been co-chair, but I'm very excited about the project because I think it has to be done. I go to the other communities, I see what they look like, I come back to ours, and frankly, I'm disappointed because it's not conducive. It's not conducive for me personally to come up here and spend a lot of time. It's just the nature of it is. I mean, I realized when we moved in, it was the greatest thing since sliced bread. But as somebody on TV said, it's time to de-Tuscanize, and that's what we're trying to do. So I'm excited about this project. I hope you guys are too. And I'm looking for a favorable vote, a yes vote, frankly, either through proxy or when you show up at the meeting on December 19th. Now, that's my closing comment. So I appreciate that. Thank you for your time. As we previously said, we have a lot of residents, I think, viewing over YouTube. And as you can see, an enormous audience here. So we are now going to the question and answer period. Bob and Jack have been gracious enough to stay in case they have any questions. We're going to be going around, passing the mic for those that have questions. We're also going to be taking questions through those that are sending them in by email tonight. And again, we're going to keep it one question per household. I realize that there may be two of you from the same household here. just decide the questions that are most important that you'd like to have addressed now. If they don't have an opportunity to be addressed here tonight, please sign up for one of the focus groups, because we want to try to give as many people as we can an opportunity to ask and have their questions answered. And with that, we're going to go into the question and answer period. Thank you very much. I appreciate it. So if you can just stay where you are, we will bring the mics to you. If you can just raise your hands. If you have questions, we will try to get as many as we can.
Hi, my name is Elaine Solomon, and I don't have a question, but I'd like to say I thought it was absolutely fabulous. And I think coming back to this place, you'd be proud to say this is your home, rather than what it looks like right now. And I think they did a great job.
Go ahead.
I'd like to ask, how long is this project going to take, and what will be the status of the clubhouse and use or non-use during the project?
All right, so let me see if I can address that, and I apologize because neither Bob nor myself touched on this. We probably should have. So here's the game plan. So let's go forward on a positive note. Let's say this is approved on December 19th. We now go into the permitting process. And Palm Beach County being what it is in today's environment, the permits can be anywhere from 4 to 6 months. It's just the nature of the beast. We have no control over that. We're going ahead on the basis that we will be able to put a shovel in the ground May 1st of next year, which means that we will physically close the clubhouse April 1st. We will have to clean this place out. And by the way, for anybody who would like these chairs, put your name on them before you leave tonight, and we'll get those to you. From that point on, the construction, if all goes well, would have an 8 to 12 month time. So we hope by the second quarter of 20, we will be able to have a grand celebration opening clubhouse party. That's the game. One other thing on that, because it was a point of concern, the pool will be open during construction. Tennis courts will be open during construction. However, we'll probably allocate one half of one side of the parking lot for the construction materials and equipment that has to be, it just has to be done. We'll try to do that. As far as how we accommodate meetings and cards and those kinds of things, we're working on that, but that was something that we didn't want to presuppose anything, so we're going to address that as soon as we get the positive on moving forward.
I want to thank everybody on the committee. If you think about it, you guys spent about 4,000 hours. There's a whole lot of they're spending 20 hours a week. And I can testify that there were people that worked at least 20 hours every week for 2 years. And these are retired people. So I think we got a great bargain here. I think I can live with a $200 a month assessment and not go out to dinner or whatever it is. And not go out to dinner 4 times.
Let us speak, you'll have a chance.
I think it would help all of us if we didn't go out to dinner 4 times.
Hi, I'm Dennis. Real quick question. I couldn't determine from the renderings, as far as the fitness center is concerned, what will happen to the eyebrow windows that allow the afternoon sun in and heat up the facility?
So in that rendering of the fitness room, because that's the only one with the eyebrow windows, the aerobics room has, if I remember correctly, the squared off windows. So we've introduced an architectural detail around those arched windows that will house solar shades that can come down to control the light. I have a question about the fitness center too. You didn't mention anything about the back room, the small back room. Is that going to undergo some changes, or is it going to be totally incorporated into the main area? Yep. So that That area gets basically some general cosmetic updates as well, new carpeting, paint, and a new ceiling fan. All, yeah, all to match the same motif. So it'll be continuous, it's all being treated as one space.
Hi, Barbara McCanns. My question is, if one chooses, can they pay the $3,800 in one lump sum versus a payment plan?
Yes, I forgot, I did not mention that. When you get the coupon, it will indicate that you can pay it quarterly or pay it $3,800 one-time payment. I might mention that most communities have found that over 50% of their communities have done that, but we have the option to do it either way.
I have a question here, anybody?
Helen Rappaport. You discussed the handicap accessibility to the bathrooms. What about accessibility to the cafe, the card rooms, and the social hall?
We have handicap accessibility, as you mentioned, for the cafe, for the entry doors, bathrooms, etc. We did not do it for the card rooms. We did not do it for the card rooms. It was difficult to get, I believe, because of the nature of those doors that are on the card rooms.
Yeah, well,
They're fire rated, and it was difficult to make those handicap accessible doors. However, I think the push activity for the bars was being adjusted, new hardware on those doors, right, to make it easier to push open and pull close.
We've discussed this before. Is the mic working? Yeah. Okay, we've discussed this before, and I've been told by a gentleman from the county that all you have to do is adjust the metal arm on top of the door to make it easier to open and close. And I've discussed it with you as well. You told me it was being done, and it had never been. The doors are just as heavy as they've always been. And I think most of you know, I'm probably, well, there are two of us that I know of in this community that are using scooters, but many that are using walkers, and it's very difficult to get through any door like that. And in the future, many more of you are going to be using accessibility aids.
Okay, we'll take it under consideration again and see what we can do. Okay? I have a question. Down the back, standing up for what?
Good evening. A question for Jim Shaw. Jim, what did you say the total cost of this would be?
The total cost of the project is $4,477,000.
Well, I think you're rather deluding the public here, telling everybody it's going to cost them $3,800 each, because that works out to nearly $6,500 each. If you divide that 4,476,000, let me finish. If you divide 4,476,000 by 690, it's about 6,500 each. So how did you propose to pay for the rest of it? 3,800.
You missed please. Be respectful.
What David has asked is for the chart that says it was $4,477,000.
Right.
There's $1,555,000 coming from reserve, $300,000 coming from surplus. That's 41% of the total. So the question you're asking is being answered by the other 41% is coming from that, and the 3,800 then becomes the 2,600,000.
I understand where it's coming from, but really, $1.5 million of reserve money that we've been paying into for the last few years to be frittered away on something like this. Now, let me finish. Last year, we did not have a very bad storm, and yet it cost $300,000 on top of more. If we have a bad storm, we've used $1.5 million of our reserve money out of only 1,900,000. That
David,
was only
David,
300,000.
can I-
And I understand what you're saying. Let me finish. I understand what you're saying. We've got a few hundred
I'm
thousand.
sorry, there's a 1 minute.
But it was still deplete our money.
David, let us answer
We
that,
use it
please.
properly.
David,
Time
is up.
If you still have the question, we would be glad to.
David, I'll answer the question for you. And the answer to the question is, those costs come out of the uninsured loss reserve. That uninsured loss reserve we have is covering things like hurricane, et cetera, that has nothing to do with this presentation. Thank you. I'll be happy to answer any more questions now.
Excuse me,
If you have another question, please address it at the focus group meeting.
I have a question here, Art.
Go ahead,
I've been
Alan.
waiting patiently.
Go ahead.
My name is Bob Melvin. I'm a retired executive here from New York. You mentioned that the duration is 8 to 12 months.
Construction, once construction starts, it's 8 to 12 months.
That means that the estimated completion date is hanging. There's nothing definitive.
Well, we're at the, and hopefully people have heard me. We don't have control. We're at the mercy of Palm Beach County.
Well,
Assuming, let me finish, please. Let me finish. We're at the mercy of Palm Beach County. I mentioned to you that assuming we have a positive vote on December 19th, we will go forward with the permits. The permitting process from Palm Beach County is a minimum of 4 months, hopefully no longer than 6. Which means we're splitting the difference, and we're saying we're gonna put a shovel in the ground May 1st. Means the clubhouse closes April 1st, we need a month to get squared away. If that happens, the construction from that point forward is 8 to 12 months.
There's no fixed duration.
We can't have a fixed date because we don't know where we are with the county. Please, 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 quiet, please, everybody.
There's a question here. Can't you put that
Carol Sawyer. Just want to tell you, I think that the project is absolutely terrific. We do not want to be the King's Point of the Valencias. Just one question.
Go ahead.
The windows, are they hurricane windows?
Yes.
Thank you.
I have a question up front. So, yes, all of the windows that we're proposing for the project, the entry door system and the windows in the cafe, any new windows we're putting in are impact rated windows. Barb, we got a question.
Okay, my name is Sandy and my husband is Mark. We're both tourists and we both thank you for your time, your effort. Appreciate everything you've done for us.
The whole
You're very
committee,
brave. You're
the
very
whole
brave.
committee plus Ed and the board.
Okay, now, first I want to know, can I have that champagne?
You can, all you have to do is give me a name, I can have everything in this place.
Okay, and I go for 2 chairs too. All right, I wrote down my questions, I thought I might forget, and it took me to get smart. First, is it in the aerobics room, will that be a floating wood floor or just a wood floor? A floating wood floor is one that's more dynamic. It takes the impact of the jumping, that a little bit of jumping that we do,
Yes,
but it helps the knees and the back.
yeah, so in the aerobics room area, it is an engineered wood floor system with a rubber matting to help absorb some of the bounce.
That's very good, actually. Okay, no, may I just finish real quick?
One question per person.
Quick question. Presentation. I thought it looked great, and I certainly hope we pass it. I have a loud voice, guys. In the catering kitchen, or whatever you want to call it, are you doing anything besides like new cabinets?
In the catering kitchen here?
Yeah.
Yeah, so in addition to the new cabinetry, we also have a proposed second shelf over the island for serving, so that plates can be stacked, so it's a lot much easier for the catering service or whoever to be able to prepare the plates and stack them to come out.
Okay, will there be any new equipment in there other than that? No, okay. Yes, Becky, I have a question.
Quick question. There was no mention whatsoever of a craft room. We currently have one now, and if there is going to be one, hopefully it will be redone as well.
The craft room will be redone as well, and that's going to be basically general cosmetic. So new paint, new window treatment, new flooring material, and new chairs.
Thank
Yeah,
I have a more of a comment than a question. When I analyze costs for anything, whether it's personal or business, I try and look at percentages. And if you take a look at what has been accomplished here by the committee, and we have various homes here from lower level to middle level to high homes. But I did some quick math, and if you look at it, the assessment is at most 1% of the value of homes down to 1/2 of 1% of the value of homes. So if you think about how good an investment that is, it's remarkable.
So I'm going to just take, we have a couple of questions that came in by email, so let me just address those if I can. Be right there. Jackie, the first one.
So the first question that comes in is, why is the upholstery selected in an off-white color, which is bound to get dirty fast? Can this be changed? And it isn't true. As I mentioned before.
Jack, a little louder, I can't hear you back.
Okay. So as I mentioned before, all of the fabrics are contract rated and have a stain-resistant finish. So the areas where we do have lighter tone fabrics, they are treated, they are repellent to stains, and they are used sparingly. In addition, it's not a white fabric that's been chosen, it's an off-white to give levity to the design so that it doesn't become so heavy. And they're used in selected areas. So you're going to see them more in pillows and great rooms, and spots of lightness to be able to bring up the overall aesthetic. In addition, a lot of the lighter tones, when the fabric is in a much lighter tone, it's in a vinyl. So that is a contract rated vinyl to add to that. So stain resistant and the card room chairs, ink resistant, stain resistant. So it's all been taken into consideration with regard to the type of use that it's going to get and the potential type of staining that it's going to get.
My question is regarding the aerobics room, where many of us spend maybe 10 hours a week. The question is, the shelving doesn't appear from the picture deep enough to hold the mats because of the two mirrors on either side. Is there going to be area for personal items like keys and purses? And the other question is, we have chair aerobics, and I don't know, are you buying new chairs? We need 25 chairs for chair aerobics. And the other question is the massage rooms and the therapy rooms. It's all part of the fitness center. Are they going to be equipped with new like massage tables and things like that?
So let me work backwards and go to that. So the restrooms, the locker room restrooms, the therapy area, the massage table area, those are going to get general, just finished changes, new paint, yeah. The table we assessed was in good condition, so we were basically keeping that as the existing table and working around that. But new carpet in that area, which will tie into the carpet that we're using in the other areas. With regard to cubby storage in the aerobics area, that we have, it's not shown in the rendering, but we've indicated some areas for people to be able to put purses and other items. And I'm sorry, the other question. Oh, the mats. So yes, the cabinet for that will be the depth needed to accommodate the mats. And chairs. And chairs. That I don't have an answer on, so I will have to address that in.
Art, I have a question for Art over here.
Go ahead.
Art, how do you contemplate handling a situation in which cost projections may not be accurate? You handled or accounted for 5% reserve, which is roughly $250,000. But let's hypothetically assume that it's over by 15%.
and now you have $500,000 beyond what you budgeted as a reserve. Do you contemplate making an assessment, scaling back the project in some way? So I'm just curious how you want to handle it.
It's a good question, and we've addressed that amongst ourselves. We have a positive oriented project right now. And the way it's working is we're not anticipating exceeding the project amount. If and when we come to that point, and we don't know whether that's going to be, we'll have to address that, to be honest, when we get to that point. But we don't have, I don't have an answer for you exactly when that's going to be addressed now.
I have an answer for that. We are not dealing with projections. We are dealing with a fixed price guaranteed contract. There are only two ways that the price can change. The first way is if we decide to do something to increase the scope of the work. We're not doing that. The second way, which would be highly unlikely, is that there were some concealed condition that would entitle the contractor to an increase in the guaranteed maximum cost. It's hard to imagine, given all the investigative work we've already done, how that could ever arise. If you'll recall, we had a structural engineer examine all of our joists, gave us an absolutely clean report. In fact, if you look at the pictures that accompany his report, it's amazing. It looks brand new at all of our joists in the ceiling. We had roofers come in to examine for leaks and to make sure there was no mold. We got a clean bill of health. We had, I think it was 3 pinpoint leaks, and they were all fixed. This contract includes the numbers that you've seen. Included within that project cost is, at our expense, within that number, is the premium for a 100% payment and performance bond. That stands behind Bob Martin. If God forbid something should happen to Bob or his company and they were not able to perform their obligations to us, the bonding company steps in and does that. So we are 100% fully protected that the job as designed will be delivered for no more than the guaranteed maximum cost that was on that figure, subject only to something that is so rare you can basically assume that it won't happen, and that would be a major concealed condition that would entitle the contractor to a change order. We don't intend to issue any voluntary change orders. So you can rest assured, and I just want to say, one of the reasons it took us 2 years to get where we got is that, unlike some other communities, we did not start by pulling a number out of the air and promising people what we could deliver for that number. Instead, we spent the money to hire Bob Martin and Stu Brenner to provide, through all 3 stages of the design, finished, complete working drawings and specifications so that we have legally binding price quotations from the subcontractors to Bob Martin. Bob Martin is our designer, he's also our general contractor, but he subs out 100% of the work. Those subcontract prices, those are now bid. We have a guaranteed maximum cost backed by Bob Martin, backed by Decorators Unlimited, and will be backed by the bonding company before the first penny changes hands. So please rest assured, we've done our homework.
Okay, before I take another one that came in from, I apologize for jumping around, but they're coming in by email. So let me just try to get this one. The question was, why expand the cafe into the outside area? Let me see if I can address this. We've got, as was mentioned in Bob's presentation, hopefully everybody heard, the back of the house, where the kitchen equipment is now, is being doubled in size. When that's doubling in size, it means you lose the seating capacity inside. And that's the reason to expand it, to pick up the outside space, the more seating area. As we mentioned, the seating capacity has really not changed. It's the same, it's just a reconfiguration of the space And the cafe is being designed, which by the way was, we had another subcontractor working with us, which was Cheney Brothers, who did working with Bob and Jack, and their construction crew did the kitchen design and layout. The kitchen is being designed in such a way that if in fact down the road, we should choose to do dinners in the evening, we'd be able to accommodate that. We can't do that now.
Art, I have a question over here next.
Go ahead.
Hi, Bill Schmidt. Early on in the project, the consideration was being given to possibly adding one or two pickleball courts, maybe by eliminating the putting green, possibly bocce, and also a transition from the existing playground equipment to a water feature. Are those being deferred, ignored? What?
Let me see if I can address, I did address that specifically, those issues specifically at a board meeting. In this whole process, as you can imagine, to try to tie in a sports complex, sports amenities with this project would have been untenable. We decided that we were not going to address either adding additional pickleball courts, removing the putting green, or anything such as the sports amenities in this juncture. That will be something that would be down the road, and that will be the subject of another meeting where you all as the community would have to vote on whether we go forward with that. We have had a land planner come in, however, to give us an idea of what we can and can't do here. Unfortunately, GL left us with limited space. So we're limited to some extent in terms of what we can do, but those issues will be addressed down the road.
I have a question. Concerning the bathrooms, I saw that the toilets are going to be replaced. Are they going to be higher?
Yes.
And also, are there going to be more handrails being put in the stalls in, like in Liz's room? There's one handicap bathroom, but the other stalls do not have that, have the handrails. And there are a lot of us that are going to start needing it more and more.
It's not required. We can do that, but it's not required. But we will consider that for sure.
And this gentleman's
over here. Oh wait, where are we? Great.
Okay. Hi. Thank you again for all your work. Really appreciate it. Since there's some ambiguity, not under your control, as you mentioned before, when the project would start, how will you deal with the yearly assessment we get for the cafe, as far as refunding money is concerned, and the legal contract that you have with the vendor? How are you going to deal with that?
Let me try and answer that question. The first part regarding the money. We have a contract that requires each home to pay $300 per year to a vendor. Now, obviously, we're not going to be open for a full year. What we've done is we put the $300 on the second coupon, knowing that we didn't really know the answer now, and we wouldn't know the answer until after December 19th, and may even be a little bit later depending on when permits. So what will actually happen is that we will load the cards on January 1st with 1 quarter's worth, $75. There'll be no charge. The charge will not be paid. That amount will not be paid until the April 1st maintenance payment. So therefore, nothing is going to be done to charge us for anything beyond which the cafe will be used during 2019. That was the first question you asked. The second question you asked is regarding the contract with the vendor. Ed, you may want to just quickly address that.
I wrote that contract. The vendor came in knowing that we were contemplating a renovation. The contract expressly provides that if we close the clubhouse for the renovation, he takes a time out. His contract is extended. The length of his contract is extended by however long he's closed because of the renovation. And in addition, either he or we can terminate that contract at any time without cause on 45 days notice. So we've been very upfront with him. He knows exactly what's going on, and it's all been taken care of.
How many people in the show of hands really like the vendor we have?
Over here, please. Over here. Jamie, go ahead. Please,
Please, I think all of us here understand how hard everyone has worked and put their heart and souls in this. It's been selfless, it's been sacrificial, and I think the end product that you've come up with from a design point of view, from an aesthetic point of view, from a functional point of view, and a financial point of view, I think it exceeds what we all, I think, want to have in this program.
Sure.
Nobody talked about the exterior of the building, what's being done to de-Tuscanize it. What color is it?
Go ahead, Alan.
I got one back. Just a question. According, or rather, the gentleman who spoke about guarantees or not having guarantees, I take a kind of offense to the fact that someone would say this is a guarantee. I've been in construction since I was 13 years old with my dad in renovation. Excuse me, you talk, no, I'm going to talk.
Go ahead.
All I'm saying to you is that don't take anything there's no insurance that this is going to happen. I think the 5% is too little.
Okay.
I think it's going to be built into a bigger number. And I think no matter what you do with construction, they're not guaranteed. And just to put that hallway, when we redid that hallway, once we tore up that hallway, there was a crack with the whole length of the place that we sealed. Those are things that could happen in the renovation. I'm just pointing it out. I think we bid it too low.
Thanks, George. Thank you. Over here, somewhere over here. Where are we? Go ahead. Hi. Hello. Go ahead.
I've been here 5.5 years. I think you guys did a great job. I think one of the biggest problems is that when you speak to the people, all they want to know is, well, will we be more value of the house if we do it? And I think that's the most important. The most important thing is to be proud of where you live. This is our place. It's all the other thing is, if you really think about it, 12 years divided by 3,800 comes out to $360 a month. With 360 a year, which comes out to $30 a month. So if you look at it, for 12 years, we've not spent the penny to do this. So it's $30 a month. I think it's time everybody here just understands this is where we live. This is our community. This is why we work. Not for any other reasons, but to say this is our place.
Thank you, Steve. Back there.
Hello, hello.
Hey, please.
First of all, I want to thank you guys. You really did a great job. I have a question, and I don't know if it can be done. It seems to me that the clubhouse is going to be closed next winter while we're all down here. Is there a possibility to do half? Stop.
Wait, please.
Let me finish. Is there a possibility to do the main area and then the following season do the other?
Let me address it.
I live up north, and we just renovated up north. What they've done, because a lot of people go down south, they start the clubhouse around the end of October, the end of November, and they reopened it around May and June. And they did half or 3/4 of the clubhouse. This year, they finished the clubhouse, they closed it for 3 or 4 months, and we finished the clubhouse. Therefore, we had total access of using the clubhouse.
Let me see if I can. All right. Let me see if I can address this. Number one, it isn't anything we hadn't discussed early on when we first started the process. Fact of the matter is, it's a much more cost prohibitive process to do it in pieces. We don't schedule if you have a subcontractor coming in, just as an example, to do demolition, the best way to get it done and the least expensive is to have them do all the demolition while we're here, not do it in piecemeal. That's number one. Number two, to your point about while you're up north and we're down here, everybody to some extent is gonna be disadvantaged. The people who are down here full-time are gonna be just as disadvantaged as those of you who are up north. We are trying to do this the most efficient and cost-effective way. And the way we've decided to do it, which has proven to be effective in other communities, we close down, we get the project done, and we move about our business. And that's the answer. Go ahead. Go ahead. Go ahead.
This isn't anything but financing. Would you be good enough, because you did very nicely, but very quickly, are you going to be putting all those numbers on the website so people who couldn't come for one reason or another will see them?
Fact of the matter is, all that information is in the mail-up materials that are going out tomorrow morning, and it's also in the link that will be in the e-blast when it comes out tomorrow morning as well.
Thank you.
You'll have that information. Go ahead.
Alan Gilbert, one real easy pickleball question. You talked about the tennis courts, because they're far away, will be in operation the whole time. I'm curious, will the pickleball courts, because they're next to the building, will construction things get in the way?
It's doubtful if they're gonna be open, but I can't stand here and say for certain that they're not. But it's doubtful that they'll be open just because of the proximity to the construction area.
Art, I have a question, but concerning pickleball, that's gonna be on a day-to-day basis probably. If they're not
That's
working on
correct.
this side of the building, we'll keep them open.
That's correct.
Minimally address the social hall kitchen. Now, a lot of us that worked on committees there find it very inefficient. The cabinets are very narrow, they're not usable, things keep falling out. There's no money that can be set aside to at least do some minimal help in there.
Well, we are doing minimal work. We are doing additional cabinetry, as we said. We're actually moving the doorways out so we can get some additional cabinetry in. We're not adding additional equipment, because when you add additional equipment, you get into a whole other situation with the county, frankly, from a permitting standpoint. It becomes a commercial kitchen. And the fact of the matter is, Sandy, that we did an analysis back probably almost a year ago now with every major club here, every club that had events. And the total number of events that were here that would use that kitchen in a year were 4. There were 4 events. That kitchen, to do it over, was more money than we considered worth spending. So we're doing the minimum amount we can. I think it'll be much more efficient when you see what's being done. Tina?
Not really a question, Tina Steiner. I just wanted to say, if for any reason this doesn't pass, we've thrown out hundreds of thousands of dollars on all of our, the men who did
Tina, speaking to the mic, nobody can hear you.
Okay, the men who did the designs, the architects, that money is down the tubes. If we don't pass this, and I don't see how we can't, we are living in this community, and we do not want to be, as Carol Sawyer said, the King's Point of the Valencia.
Hang on. For an answer, Tina?
No.
Okay, thanks.
We just appreciate everything you've
Okay,
done.
thanks. Go ahead, back there. Right. 1 or 2.
Art, I have a question for you. We extended our community, an invitation to Valencia Isles to be here for our shows, for the aerobics room, to use our card rooms at times when they were not used during the summer. Is that going to be extended
Yes.
to us also? So
Yes.
that we can go there when we
Yes, it is. We've already confirmed that. And by the way, as Bob rightly just pointed out, you'll be using facilities in a brand new clubhouse.
I have one more question. How about the entertainment committee? Excuse me.
Where else?
The chairs that are going to be used in the social hall, these chairs that are being replaced. I have a quick question for you because nobody ever answered. Are they going to be putting an envelope slot in the back of the chair?
Yes.
So we're not pasting that.
Yes.
Numbers.
The answer is yes. They will be stackable and they will have the permanent slots in the back. Thank you. Go ahead.
Hi, David Simpson. I'm an architect. I just wanted to speak.
Please.
I wanted to speak to some of the costs that have been questioned here. The scope of the work that I see occurring here may find, as Mark said, a cracked floor, which we could have. We may find a leaky pipe. But these are things that are not going to affect the budget in any real manner. Essentially, what could be found if the scope of this work were different could be monumental. I don't see any real concern about price overruns the way
I have a question here.
Okay, we got, Megan, I just want to check, how much time, Megan, how much time?
Yeah, 15 more minutes.
I'm gonna start talking, that's what they told me. I just want to say that I think that they were given with the amount of money that came up, what we got for that amount of money was incredible. Because I know there was wish lists that everybody had, and we're all getting something we want, we're all getting something we don't want. Not really a question, just want to say that I think we're a community, and we have to remember that whether you come to the clubhouse, whether you use the tennis courts, you join this community, and we're all responsible for it. We need to do it.
Another question that came in by email, can I get this one first? I find this one particularly interesting for me. The question is, how about installing a beautiful bar in the great room? So just so everybody's aware, I'm trying to figure out how long ago we removed that from the great room. It's gonna be at least 18 months. So the answer is, no, we're not installing.
Art, I have a question over here.
I have a question.
And then we got one over there. Go ahead. Go ahead.
My question is for the gentleman over there.
Where?
Arts and craft room, I know you're gonna do a paper and paint kind of thing on it. Those of us who use it, there is no storage. It's that design of the room. There's no place to leave anything overnight. There's no place to even store a paintbrush overnight. Have you taken that into consideration? Any way to put in wire racks, a cubby down at the bottom or something? Since we can't use the closets in the ladies' bathroom.
If you remember, we addressed that. That closet that we use right now for multimedia and the emergency team is becoming a storage closet. And we're moving that stuff out to some other area.
Well, some of us appreciate that. Thank
Okay.
you.
I have a question right here on.
You're waiting a while.
Hi, I'm going to be very optimistic that this is going to pass. Great job. But in the meantime, my question is, a lot of the clubs use facilities here for meetings, for speakers, for movies, for different events. So we can have any accommodation to be able to use another place. So we still can have our club.
You'll have the ability to use Valencia House for certain things. We have to finish putting those pieces together, but we had addressed this issue that if the clubhouse closed, whether we have large events or not, may not be accommodated. We just have to see how that's gonna work out. But Valencia House will accommodate us, as we said, in a brand new clubhouse. So.
My name is Jack, perhaps everybody knows my wife more than they know me, Nancy. I have 3 comments. First of all, to me, this is a no-brainer. After what everybody here has done and spent time-wise is not being applied to it. There's an old adage about Florida. People came down here to die. Most of us came down here to live, and that's the attitude that should be taken. Earl Cohen, I'd like to speak in favor of the renovation. Certainly want to thank all of you for all the hard work that they've done. And I think it's about time we went to the top of the mountain instead of the bottom of the mountain.
And I don't want us to be known as Valencia that turned down the renovation.
Okay, I've got another one that came in by email. Can I address this? Do the plans anticipate installing a power generator for the clubhouse? The answer is no. We did not do that. Number one, it's a very expensive proposition. The ones that have done it, they've spent upwards of $300,000 for a generator and could not accommodate everybody in the community. It was decided way back that it was not prudent for us to consider that, given what else was going on.
All right.
Go ahead, whoever.
All right, I'm Alan Miller, I'm chairman of the Budget and Finance Committee, and I'd like to just point out that this community, we have 3 reserves. We have an uninsured loss reserve, we have a painting reserve, and we have a replacement reserve. The uninsured loss reserve is not being touched, and we are continuing to support it with $150,000 a year in our budget. The painting reserve has approximately $500,000 in it this time, and we're continuing, that is not being touched, and we're continuing to support that with $200,000 a year. The only reserve that we're touching is the maintenance and replacement reserve, and we feel the board, the Budget and Finance Committee unanimously feels that participating in $1,555,000 is the right way to go.
And you get from back there.
Yeah, I just have a quick comment and a question. As an architect, most of my work was this type of renovation. And we brought most of our work in under the 5%. So you probably will be able to do that. I always told my clients to carry 10%, just so you would have enough if there was some sort of an unforeseen condition. The real question I have though is, have we carried anywhere for a clerk of the works or any supervision? Nothing against you guys. But with this type of a contract, it's like having a fox guard the chicken coop. And there really should be someone who's working for the board, for the association, overviewing, not supervising, but just overviewing the work just to make sure it's being done as per the contract.
Stan Cohen, would you please stand up and introduce yourself to Les Brown? Stan Cohen will personally view every penny of every invoice. This contract is based on cost plus a fee. The costs have to be documented. Stan is our watchdog.
One question. Alan, go ahead.
I'm fairly new to the community, and I just wanted to say thank you for that gorgeous vision that you created, and I just hope you all make this a reality.
I've got one other question that came in by email from somebody. Look, will the gym be open during construction? Probably not. It's being renovated, and as I said before, no, you will have the question. Please.
Do that, but there's nobody overseeing.
Excuse me, Les, I would say that the focus groups should be available so we can address it at that point. Everybody's entitled to their opinion. Will the gym be open during construction? They meant our gym, and the answer is no. The aisles will be available as we let them use ours. Any more questions, Len?
So, I have a question.
Please, quiet, please, everybody.
Has anybody considered changing the paint on the outside of the building with the new interior insulation? And since we're doing painting the whole development at this time, that would be something to look at.
Yeah, I think we can address, I don't know, we haven't talked about the exterior painting, that's going on now with Coastal, right? So we can talk about that and see what we're gonna do, but I don't have a solid answer for you at this point.
Just something that should be
Right,
looked into.
appreciate it. Yeah. The coastal, Len, to answer your question, the coastal contract that we're currently in includes painting the exterior of the clubhouse. If we choose to pick a different color, we'll talk to coastal about that. I think that's what you were getting at. Yeah, okay.
Art, I just want to take 1 second. Joel Powder made a really good point. He suggested a clarification of something that Alan Miller alluded to. The $1,555,000 that's coming out of reserves is coming out of the deferred maintenance reserve. That deferred maintenance reserve is for all of the fixed assets. Probably at least, 90% of those fixed assets are inside the walls of this clubhouse. The other things are like the roadways, the curbs, things like that. So the whole purpose of that deferred maintenance reserve was to pay for things like clubhouse renovation. We're not stealing from Peter to pay Paul. We're using money that you folks have contributed in your quarterly payments over the years to pay exactly for the purpose that those monies were collected.
I think we've addressed everybody's questions. The hour, luckily we got through with everybody's. So again, we're going to adjourn this meeting.
Before you leave, we have a treat. It's Hanukkah. You want a Hanukkah treat? Okay, so here's what's going to happen. The maintenance staff is going to set up for a very brief special board meeting up on the stage. When they finish that, they are going to go to the living room and take out of the administrative offices the actual renderings themselves with the before and afters, and there are 12 of those, and also the actual material boards. The 6 material boards, you are only able to see washed out photos of those, but the material boards will also be in the living room. If you wanted to stay for another 10 minutes, you'll be able to see that on your way out. If not, we're going to leave them on display the entire time between now and the vote on the 19th. Thank you.
Okay, they are on display already, Ed. Ed, back here, Ed. The renderings are on display as we speak.
Oh, okay. For any of those that want to stay for the special board meeting, please feel free.
Nobody are the material boards out too?
Everything's out.
Okay, take a look in the living room on your way out. I think you'll like what you see.
When you said a special treat, very disappointed. I thought you were going to offer me latkes.
That sounds like a great idea. They don't want to feed 500 people.
That's a special treat.